Welcome to your Daily 5 for Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. For the final part in my The Internet is Not Free series, I wanted to talk a little bit about the consolidation that we have seen going on within technology companies and more specifically companies that control the internet and how it can be really another factor in the internet not being free, at least in the way that people, now this is a different kind of free, we're not talking about monetary in this case, but this is definitely something that has degraded from the earlier days of the internet where there really was a much more wide open canvas for people to explore and communicate and find information. And we are seeing that, depending on how you interpret it, those avenues are being clamped down on. Now, on one side, we have seen fewer and fewer companies that control more and more of the avenues that we access content online. For example, if you have cable internet or DSL, you probably don't have more than, if you even have, two options in your area to be able to get internet access. So if the company that you're using today suddenly decides to do something really egregious, or they just decide to tank your service, do you have another option that you can go to? One that is on par with what you have today. Because I know you can get satellite internet pretty much everywhere as far as I understand, but I am not aware of any residential or consumer level satellite internet that is anywhere near as reliable or has as good performance as cable or even DSL. I mean, there may be some, but I think they're really expensive, which is going to be it's going to be prohibitive for most people. If it costs too much, you can't use it. So in essence, it might as well not exist. So there is the consolidation problem where, and they've played around with this idea that subscribers can watch certain content for free or at a discount or subscribe to certain things. They haven't gone into the punitive direction too far, although I think there have been a couple of cases where things have cost more if you weren't on their service or weren't watching their content. So that's also a problem where these same companies not only control the means of delivery, but what is being delivered. Can't see how that would ever be an issue. And also, if you think about how you search for things online, most people, I think, when you say the word search, they immediately equate that word with the word Google. Google is search for most people. And while Google search certainly it became dominant because it was such a wonderful and effective tool in the early days, there have been complaints for a long time, probably going on now, I guess a decade, that Google search results have been becoming worse and worse. I bailed on it, I want to say 7-8 years ago now. I don't remember exactly. Now I'm using effectively Bing search because that's what DuckDuckGo runs on. So it's not that Bing is necessarily demonstrably superior. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bing is without doubt a better search result, but I just found that I'm getting more relevant results through it. So for me, it is a better search engine. There have been others that have come that have tried to be some kind of competitor to Google. I don't think any have really broken through. Some have already folded. I know there were a couple of paid options that came and went. And that is a problem because if you just look at how Google is running most of its other services, or I guess Alphabet technically, depending on how you break it down, it's not like I have a lot of faith that the company knows what it's doing. It has been cruising on search for a long time because it got there so much further ahead of everybody else. But there is no reason for us to expect that that will last forever. And that may be the most important point of all of these fives that I've done is Steve had pointed out that most people don't care about the things that I'm talking about here. They just want whatever it is to come to them without any cost or without any barriers, without any headache. And that's fine, so long as what you're using is coming to you reliably. But the problem with apathy, the problem with not caring, the problem with not paying attention to what's going on is that it assumes that what's happening today will happen tomorrow. And that something that you rely on every day is, people look at certain things like the sun rising, which also is not something that's guaranteed if you go on a galactic scale, but is fairly reliable. Most days, the sun comes up. You may not be able to see it because of clouds, but it's there. And I think a lot of people treat too many things that way, where there are these expectations that are really subject to a lot of things in the background not changing. And we know that many of the companies that control many of the things that we rely on, their bottom line, their priority is going to be making money. And they are doing things constantly to try to make more money and to get more out of you. And if that ever becomes limited or if they feel like it's not worth it, then something that you thought was going to be there for you all the time can vanish or could change in a really horrible way. So that's why it is important to pay attention to this stuff. It is important to care, to know what's going on, to at least pay attention because, again, you don't want to get caught where one day what you thought was a floor under your feet turns to sand. Later.